You're watching the number one podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, and I'm your host, Jean Paul Leek, and this is Rope Break. Guys, go home show for Hell in a Cell was last night, and to be honest, it just was an uneventful show. We had some build, obviously, for the main match for Hell in a Cell. Drew McIntyre going against Randy Orton. Got a little bit of, some follow-up with Retribution, the Hurt Business, all that stuff. Jeff Hardy and Elias. Elias had his concert. We had Asuka and Lana, and the great match that was going to be, okay, nobody believes that. But the show it really didn't do anything to build excitement for the pay-per-view. We're just coming out of a draft, so all the matchups are new. Feuds are just starting. None are really, building up for a pay-per-view. So, it was just a very unexciting, uneventful, boring show, in my opinion. But we'll get into the full review in a minute. But, guys, if you haven't already, obviously check out all the previous, videos we did from last week's show. Of course, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, NXT UK. We have it all. But also, if you haven't, please check out the Rope Break. We're back with the interviews with the Wild Thing, Steve Ray. That's right, from Dark Side of the Ring. Check that out. Part 1 is out now. Part 2 will be out later. And, it was just such a great time talking to him, really getting the details, the things that Dark Side of the Ring didn't tell us. Rope Break has the exclusive. So check it out. Fantastic. We want to thank Steve Ray again for the opportunity. It was really great to have him on the channel. So please check that out. But, let's get into Monday Night Raw because it's not going to get done any faster. So let's, start it off with one thing that was actually an improvement. They took the song, I believe it's The Search or just Search by NF, which was used in the Bianca Belair little hype package. Now that's the new Raw theme, or at least it was tonight. I hope it is moving forward because Legendary was awful. So, this I like a little more. So hopefully they go with that. And, we get Tom Phillips. He welcomes everybody to the Thunderdome, and he kind of just starts, going over tonight's season opener and everything. And then as he's talking, the Fiend's music hits. Then we see Alexa Bliss. She's in the ring, and she says, Monday Night Raw, he's here, and then to let him in. So then we see the Fiend. He enters. We got his, 37-minute-long entrance. So he finally makes his way to the ring. And then Retribution, they enter the ring, obviously are led by Mustafa Ali. And then they go to attack, but then the Fiend and Alexa Bliss, the lights go out, and then they're gone. And it's like, then we go to commercial break. And at this point, I like the theme song, to change it up. I don't mind you starting out with the Fiend and Alexa Bliss because that's like the hottest thing on, Monday Night Raw besides Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. So it's fine. But then you have Retribution come out, and it's like, oh, maybe it's going to be a big group or it's going to be something. And then they just attack him and he disappears, and it just didn't make any sense. So then we see the Hurt Business. They enter the ring, and then they start, beating everybody up. Alexander dives on all the members of Retribution. And then, they show a vignette for Matt Riddle. Pretty much the same thing the bro who runs the show that we saw on SmackDown showed again here on Monday Night Raw. So, reusing an old video package. So that was pretty cool, I guess. Then back to the ring now. We're getting the 8-man tag of Retribution versus the Hurt Business. And I mean, you're going to hear me say this a lot tonight, but does anybody care about this? It would have been good. I want to, I should say, because you have Mustafa Ali, who's now part of the group, and now they have some identity. He cut a really good promo later on in the night, and it's like, okay, let's get some momentum behind these guys. Even though the Hurt Business, obviously Cedric is hopefully a future star they're going to push. Lashley's a current star. Shelton is an MVP, or 2 veterans. They're going to help this group along. So, you don't want to just job out the Hurt Business, but I think Retribution really should have looked stronger here, get the win, especially T-Bar, who was the one who tapped in this thing. Let's jump to the end because, again, nobody cares. T-Bar he was kind of just doing like back elbows to Lashley. Lashley caught one arm. He would do another elbow. Lashley would catch it. He got him in the full Nelson. and he taps out right away. So Dijakovic, who looked like a monster, who looked like a badass on NXT, here he is tapping out to Lashley in a couple seconds. And I mean, everybody kind of got a little bit of offense in, except for T-Bar. He really looked the weakest, I think, even, more so than Slapjack. Ali looked all right. Mace looked all right. But I really think you could book this whole feud better. And also in the middle of this match, The Fiend just appeared. And then everybody was like, so. And then it went to commercial break, and then, comes back, and it's just, oh, okay, yeah, The Fiend, yeah, whatever. So I didn't really like that. I mean, I guess they're just, I really don't know what they're doing. I can't even try to like comprehend and be like, oh, I think this is just, they don't know what they're doing. So they have 8 men versus, or 4 guys versus 4 guys. Let's throw them together. If you're smart, you'll play off the Mustafa Ali, Cedric Alexander have history with the Cruiserweight, championship. You'll play off that kind of history. You'll do something with that. If not, hey, I don't know. You're just going to put these guys together until they figure out, they'll just throw it at the wall and see what sticks. So in a post-match, The Fiend enters once again. He takes everybody out from Retribution, and he hits his sister Abigail on T-Bar, and then we go to the commercial break. So then after that, we come back, and AJ Styles, he goes to the ring, and he's with Jordan Omogbian, pretty much the tall guy who was the Raw Underground, the bodyguard outside the door who Shane McMahon would talk to, hey, big man, it's 10 o'clock, that guy. So they come out, and Styles, he takes the mic, and he says that Raw drafted a true leader, and he pretty much just puts down Rollins, and he says that the real redemption of Raw was when the return of the prodigal son, me, Jean-Paul Leek, no, AJ Styles. And then he knows how he beat Jeff and Seth last week, proving that Raw was never the Monday Night Rollins. And then Styles adds that when he beats Riddle tonight, he will be the shepherd, or he will shepherd Raw into the future. And then he says that it's a new era, and it belongs to the face that runs the place. So then Matt Riddle enters, and then him and Styles and his bodyguard, they're kind of just looking at this guy like, all right, bro, whatever. And then before the match starts, the ref is like, hey, can you leave? And then they're just, he's looking at him, and he doesn't want to leave. And AJ's like, hey, it's his ring. I'm just wrestling in it. Hey, like, you got to ask him. I can't make him do anything. So he's like, I'm going to count to 5. If you don't leave, starts counting. He grabs his arm like, yeah, you ain't going to count shit, man. So then the ref's like, oh, please leave. So he eventually leaves, and we get the match underway. And it was a good match. There's no way AJ Styles and, Matt Riddle can't put on a good match. But what did what's going to come from this? Is this going to be something for the mid card? It seems like none of these guys even have Bobby Lashley or anything like that in their sights. You'd think AJ Styles would be going after maybe Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, kind of go, even though we've seen that matchup when he was on Raw last time before he got drafted to SmackDown, or he just showed up on SmackDown after he was killed by The Undertaker. I forget how that all went down, but oh no, it was Paul Heyman and the Good Brothers and all that stuff. Yeah, that's right. But with this, it was good, but I really don't know what the whole purpose is. And the bodyguard got involved. It was they hit all the good offense. The Pele kick, Matt Riddle looked good. He hit the Broton, all that stuff. The final flash knee. But towards the end of this, or at the end, Riddle gets sent to the outside. And the bodyguard's just standing there, staring a hole through Riddle. And Riddle's like, oh, what the, like, okay. And he gets in the ring, but he's still kind of distracted. He eats almost like a drop kick. And then AJ picks him up. Styles clash, 1, 2, 3. And he wins the thing. So I don't like that. I wish he would have got a little bit more involved. Maybe, the bodyguard grabbed the ref or did something, and then AJ low blowed him, even though we saw a low blow later in the night. But you could have did something, maybe rake the eyes or, whatever, and cheated to win, because obviously they're portraying AJ as a heel here. But, even though he was distracted from Matt Riddle to lose clean, I don't see that as being all right, even though he lost clean to me, even though he was distracted, I don't see that as a crutch or a way out or oh, no, he still looks good. No, he looks like a loser. He debuts here and he loses. You shouldn't have put him in a match against AJ Styles. If you want to book a feud, whatever, have Styles maybe come out afterwards and cut a promo on him or attack him or do something. But I would like to see Riddle in a match and get a win here for his debut on Monday Night Raw. But then we get a video package pretty much summarizing everything with Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, same stuff that we've seen before. So then back, we see Drew McIntyre. He's being interviewed by Charlie, and he's like, hey, let me just, take over here so I can address Drew directly. And then he says that, yeah, Orton has a lot of experience, and that he says that he met him when he was only 20 years old, and he's been the most evil and obnoxious person, selfish, sadistic person in the entire WWE. And he notes that Orton is intelligent, and when McIntyre beat him at last month's pay-per-view, should have been the end of the feud. But Orton took out Drew's friends, his mentors, knowing that he has a temper, knowing he would see red, and that he would challenge him at Hell in the Cell. Yeah, you will see red, Drew, because the whole cell's red. And then McIntyre, he says how dangerous Hell in a Cell is, and he says that Orton thrives in that environment, and against anyone else, it would give him a massive advantage. But Drew isn't like any other superstar, and he says this Sunday there will be no honor or respect because Orton doesn't deserve any. He said, I will go through hell, and I will put you through hell as well to remain the WWE champion. McIntyre also teases that he might show up tonight during Randy Orton's promo. So good promo there by Drew McIntyre. This is the one feud that we can hang our hat on, that we can say, okay, this is legit. This feels like wrestling. This feels, good. The story's there. The match quality's there. The guys are both superstars. They're both, top talent. So, no problems with that. But speaking of problems, then we get Asuka versus Lana for the Raw Women's Championship. How do you think this thing was going to go? Did you think this was going to be a contested match? Did you think this was going to be, one you'll rewatch, from time and time again? No. Asuka lock and done. Come on, tap out. Like, seriously, 4-minute match, moving on. What happened post-match, though, is what everybody cares about. Because Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, they come out, they start beating down both women. And for a fifth, Booker T, five-time, for a fifth week in a row, Lana gets put through the table. She only has two people to thank. At this point, I'm going to say it's more the fans for crying out, saying, oh, really, 4 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row. This is so, what the hell? This is so dumb. I feel like now Vince is doing it to be like, haha, screw you fans. He's not even doing it because of Miro anymore. But, they put her through the table, and then they start going after Asuka. But Asuka, she kind of gets the advantage. She hits the hip attack on Shayna Baszler to the outside. She taunts them both, and then Jax and Baszler leave. So, but then when we come back, they're out there. They have the mic, and then they're pretty much saying like, yeah, I guess we have good teamwork. And then Shayna's like, oh, I would use dominant. And then Nia's like, oh, well, it's a little like, overused. And they had a little bit of banter, and it was like kind of funny. And they're like, yeah, people say we don't get along because we don't follow each other on Instagram or this or that. But, they're trying to be like funny and stuff. But some of it was like, okay. I do like the chemistry. I feel like Shayna can actually be funny if you let her. But Nia is just, Nia's Nia. And they say we own the women's tag team titles. And then they put a challenge to any team in the back. So then we get Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, and then Lacey Evans, Peyton Royce, and we get the Riot Squad, who, even though they got drafted to SmackDown, hey, screw the rules, right? So then we get a fatal four-way tag match, which is Jax and Baszler versus the Riot Squad versus Dana Brooke, Mandy Rose versus Lacey Evans, and Peyton Royce. So pretty much when this thing starts, it just breaks down. They just all start beating the hell out of each other. The two women from the Riot Squad each jump, and take down everybody else. So when the match actually takes place, I was hoping it would have ended in the count out there. I wasn't so lucky. But when the match actually takes place, you didn't really see much teamwork between Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce, which was to be expected. Riot Squad looked good. Pretty much all the other three teams look good in this. But, when this ends, Baszler, she takes out Riot with a choke, and then as Jax tags in, she hits a Samoan drop on Lacey Evans, because before that, Lacey Evans, she ate the the Riot Squad's finisher where they do like I forget what Liv does, but then Ruby does the Riot kick right afterwards. And then, that's pretty much when the tag team champs came in, stole it. Samoan drop 1, 2, 3. So, I don't. It was just a challenge to any of the women in the back, and then they win. So the women's tag titles are still up in the air. Please go to NXT, drop them there, do something. But again, the whole show very forgettable. You don't care or have investments in really any of these matches so far. So then we get a recap of Elias, his attack on Hardy, and when he delivers his unforgettable concert after the commercial break. Then we come back, he has his guitar, and he's ready to perform, and he hypes up his album Universal Truth, and he performs a song from it called Amen, and he hopes Jeff Hardy is listening. And then he plays his whole song. It wasn't bad. It was okay. It was long, so that was good because then that gives you time to look away from this awful show, go get a drink, wash your eyes out, whatever you need to do. But then when this was done, Elias, he thanks the WWE Universe, and he once again hypes up his album, and he says, "Good night. I love none of you." And that's how I feel about every single segment of this show. And then Elias, he gets sent to do another song because somebody's like, encore, encore. No, just kidding. Nobody said encore except maybe Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn in his little headset there. But, somebody has a hood, they have like a hood on. It wasn't me, guys, okay, don't get no ideas. But he's playing the guitar, and then Elias is like, dude, what the hell's your deal? And then, boom, we see it's Jeff Hardy. And then he hits Elias with the guitar. And he said, I didn't hit you with that car months ago, but I guess you hit him with the guitar. So, hey, you still hit him. So this feud, spoiler alert, we got an announcement later on that this will be a match at Hell in a Cell. This will easily be one of the opening matches, pre-show matches. This is whatever. Jeff Hardy's a good wrestler. Elias, he looks jacked as all hell. He looks, even better shape than he was before, but I don't think he probably got any better in the ring. So we'll see. I don't hate Elias. I just don't, this isn't the role, the right thing for him. So we'll see. I like him more as a baby face, but you got to book him correctly. As a heel, he's just annoying, and he's clearly going to lose to put these other guys over. So then backstage now we have Miz and Morrison, and Miz says that he saved Mandy from Otis, and then Tucker walks over. He's pissed, and he says that the Miz uses his influence to get Rose and Tucker moved to Raw. And Tucker says that he's going to find a partner tonight, and he will ruin Miz and Morrison's lives in the tag match. Morrison and Miz accept. So then we get Kofi Kingston. He's heading to the ring now, and he's in action after the break. So then when we come back live, that's when Elias, he's like, I want my match at Hell in a Cell. This is bullshit. I just want to celebrate my new album. So, okay, we get that announcement. Then we get Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and, they're in the ring, and they got to cut a promo. Please let this be the last week that they cut a long promo before the match. Can we just see them wrestle? Because they're not anything special. I'm sorry. I love the New Day, but they're not anything special. They don't need all this time, all this fanfare, all this celebration. If you want to, do that with Big E to try to push him, that's fine. But the New Day themselves, Kofi and Woods, to me, they already feel boring. They feel generic. They feel like they've been here for months, even though they've been gone. So what does that tell you? And then Woods, he's flabbergasted. Yeah, I'm flabbergasted too, but probably not the same thing you are, about how things have changed recently. And then Sheamus comes out, and he said he had problems with Big E as of late, and he says that it's been 4 years since the New Day have been on Raw. But, with Big E on SmackDown, both of you Muppets will end up on the wrong side of a bro kick. And Kofi says that the New Day will keep holding it down on both brands, and it will spread. He said, we will spread our seed. Kofi, hey, I thought you had kids. I thought you were good. I thought you were only spreading it on one, on one lawn. I didn't know you were spreading your seed on multiple lawns, Raw and SmackDown. You're covering the whole landscape. So, they go back and forth in this and that, and then we finally get to the match. So the match it starts, and it was good. Sheamus is a hell of a wrestler. You're watching him. He dominated this thing early on. Then Xavier Woods made his comeback. We saw Big E. He was there in the Thunderdome, even though fans are trying to get in. Oh, let's put WWE superstars on there and see, people who want to be in there. But then there's reports that they use old footage and it's not even, live people. So who the hell knows? But we saw Big E on Thunderdome. His thing looked fake because it looked like he was doing the same like hand motions like the entire time. Like, was he doing that for the entirety of the match, or did they have a GIF of Big E and they just played the GIF over and over? Who knows? But like I said, the end of the thing, Kofi made his big comeback, the boom drop, everything else. And then he goes for the SOS, but Sheamus reverses it into a roll-up for 2. He goes for the Irish Curse backbreaker. Kofi reverses it into a roll-up of his own. He then gets a Trouble in Paradise for the 1, 2, 3. And it's the whole time, it's near the ropes, and you have Xavier Woods, shit-talking him like, ha, you're dumb, blah, 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 all this other bullshit. 1, 2, 3. I would like to see Sheamus win here. Nothing against the New Day. Like I said, I love all 3 of the boys, but Sheamus is just, what has he done impactful since his return? His big feud was with Jeff Hardy, and he lost. His other big feud was with Big E, and he lost. Now he's losing this. Yeah, he beat Shorty G. He beat some other people along the way. But does anybody care about that? No. You should really do something with Sheamus while you still have him, because he is a talent. He has the look. He has, he can cut a good promo, even though you might not understand everything what he's saying when he's like, oh, you 2 turds or 2/3, whatever he said. But, you got to do something with Sheamus. It's a shame to see him lose here. But then we get a replay of the Hurt Business beating up Retribution and the appearance of the Fiend post-match. And then backstage, this was actually funny. No, this wasn't the Hurt Business thing. Excuse me. This was with Ali. So this was good. This wasn't funny. It was good. But then we get Ali. He says that the Hurt Business made a huge mistake, thinking that his only power was strength in numbers. He said, my power is creating chaos, and you have no idea how much chaos I can create. All I need is a laptop, a cell phone, and a secret, and with one click, I can make everyone's world come crashing down. I've learned how to embrace that power, and then Ali makes it clear that he was the hacker on SmackDown. And then he says, over this past year, while I was sitting at home because this corrupt company couldn't figure out how to make a buck off of somebody named Mustafa Ali, I wasn't watching the show. I was watching each and every one of these spineless superstars as they plotted and backstabbed each other just to get ahead. And he said he learned all their pathetic secrets, and then that's when he reveals that he was the hacker on SmackDown, and then he wanted the entire world to know that this sick place is infecting everyone with greed and corruption. And then he notes how, all the individuals have been abandoned, and he says he found them and that he promises that their truth will be heard, and he makes a challenge to all, saying that if they try and stop the truth from being heard, that Retribution will shut them down. So really good promo by Mustafa Ali. I love that line where, he said, oh, this company can't, they can't find anything to do with me and market me because, my name is Mustafa. And it's one of the things where you really think back to Kofi Mania and all that. That was supposed to be Mustafa Ali. That was supposed to be him. Fortunately, he got hurt, and the rest was history, as they say. But, ever since then, he was supposed to win Money in the Bank. And they gave that to Lesnar instead. So you see this guy had all these opportunities taken away from him, and it's like, why? What's the reason? Now they're playing it into a storyline. So I really like that. And then now we get to see the funny part, what I was talking about, the Hurt Business, because they're backstage, they're all there, they're all in their seats, they all look good. So then Titus O'Neil, he comes up and he's like, hey, I'd be a hell of addition to the group. He's like, you add me, man, we could take the Hurt Business worldwide, doing his Titus worldwide thing. MVP says, yeah, he's like, yeah, we're in business. And then, Titus is all like, oh, really? Like, this is awesome. Because MVP's like, let us think about it. He's like, yeah, we're in business. And he's like, man, you guys think quick. I like that. And then Lashley goes, no, we're in business. And then he's like, what? And then Cedric jumps in. They beat him down. So it's like, poor Titus can't catch a break. But, then we get we go to the ring. And then, Miz, Morrison are in the ring. Tucker comes out. No partner yet. The Miz tells Tucker to bring out his partner. And then he scoured the globe to find the world's premier luchadors, and it's El Gran Gordo, or the Big Fat. So, he comes out, and it's clearly Otis. He comes out with a little lunch pail, oh yeah, Senor Tucky. So he comes out, And then the Miz and Morrison, they know it's Otis. And they're like, dude, you're holding the money in the bank lunchbox. Like, we know it's you. Miz says that Otis doesn't deserve to be the money in the bank contract holder because he's, not the right material. He's like, you spit on everyone who's ever held that money in the bank contract. That contract, it changed my career and you're wasting it. The Miz says Otis is a joke. He notes how he's been with the company for 15 years, beating all forms of competition. He explains that Otis is an underdog and that when people call him that, it's code that they feel sorry for him. And the Miz says that the court case will go in his favor because he knows how to work the system. He concludes by saying that he will return the prestige to Money in the Bank briefcase and that Otis is a pig. So then Tucker gets pissed. They crash the ring. They start beating him down. And then, the match will happen next because we went to commercial break. So I like the promo by The Miz. It was really fired up promo. Everything he said was good. It was almost like he cut a babyface promo because he was like, you're a disgrace to this, everything I've done for 15 years. But like he's a heel though. But if you take it out of context, it was a babyface promo. But obviously he's a heel because at the end he's like, you could put dress up a pig and whatever, but at the end of the day, it's still a pig talking about Otis. So then that, obviously you don't talk about, El Gran Gordo like that. So, then we get into the match. So Tucker, he pretty much dominates this thing early on. Then they start isolating him. El Gran Gordo makes the tag. But during this thing, we saw R-Truth. He runs by. And then we get Gulak and a ref runs by, then the Lucha House Party. The only funny thing with them, which I hate how they went from being a decently used, kind of prominent, team on SmackDown. Now they go to Raw and they chase the 24/7 championship. So I'm glad to know that Raw is the place where careers go to die. It's not SmackDown. Now we know for certain. But, they're chasing it and they see Otis or El Gran Gordo in the ring and they look at him and they're like, okay, yeah, that's a legit luchador. And then they go and chase the titles. But Otis, he hits, the caterpillar or whatever they called it. He hits the big, like, Vader bomb, 1, 2, 3. He wins. And then we get some hype for Bray Wyatt's Firefly Funhouse segment, which is coming up next. But I mean, what is there to say about this? This is another one where we see Heavy Machinery, let's call it as it is, they go against Miz and Morrison again. But is Otis going to have to just go back to SmackDown, or is he going to be on SmackDown but then also be on Raw as El Gran Gordo? Who knows what they're going to do? It's just, I don't know and I don't care because this whole feud, they should have, Miz and Morrison, when they were the tag champs, they should have feuded with Heavy Machinery. They should have dropped the belts to them. And, then that's where we should be. Then Heavy Machinery could have maybe dropped it to another legit tag team like Nakamura and Cesaro. Then Nakamura and Cesaro could have dropped it to the Lucha House Party. You could have did something like that. You really could have put it on legit teams or whatever, but it was just on bullshit. And then it goes, to the New Day again. And now it's Street Profits. So, okay. But, the one cool thing we did see is we saw the New Day, Tucker, Otis, Mandy, they were all dancing. They were all grooving. Mandy, she's beautiful. That's, obviously Otis ain't getting none of that, but storyline-wise, Otis, you're a lucky man. So then we get a Firefly Funhouse segment. Bray enters, and he says he can't wait to make some new friends on Raw. So we see a replay of The Fiend from earlier, and Wyatt says that he looks like things are off to a great start. Rambling Rabbit, he says he's all about ready for fresh starts. And he, then Bray says that he's looking forward and he promises that he'll be a better friend. And then we get a throwback of Rambling Rabbit getting massacred and eaten and beat up after all these times. And he said, after all, the past is in our heads, but the future is in our hands. And then Rambling Rabbit says all he ever wanted was a fresh start as he gets devoured once again. So then there's a knock at the door. And then Bray's like, oh, I wonder who it is. They open it up. Boom, Alexa Bliss comes in. And he says, it looks like I saved our best for last. So Bliss adds, our fun is just getting started. And then they wave bye-bye. So that was cool. Now we're going to see Alexa Bliss in the Firefly Funhouse. And then, so she looked obviously like Bray, happy, smiling. And then when we see her probably in the ring with The Fiend, she'll have that more like demonic, emotionless demeanor. So this was a good Firefly Funhouse segment. Usually these are good. They're usually not like, the shits. So this was another good one. But speaking of the shits, we get Braun Strowman versus Keith Lee. So Braun Strowman was really selling the injuries, from Roman Reigns, only because it's from Roman Reigns. If it was any other superstar who hit him with the steel chairs, he'd no-sell it and he'd be fine, this week. But it's Roman, so he's practically dead. So he comes out and, but he dominates early on. Don't worry. The Strowman Express ain't stopping. Vince McMahon is still alive and breathing, so is Strowman's push. And, he just, throws around Keith Lee for a little bit. They get in the ring. Eventually, Keith Lee starts dominating, taking advantage of the injury. He goes for the Spirit Bomb, but he can't pick him up. Strowman headbutts him in the nuts. He does his best Hulk Hogan, hits a big boot. 1, 2, Lee kicks out. Ref counts 3. I don't know if they're going to dispute that. I don't know if that's part of the storyline or if that's whatever. But after the match, Strowman's like, I won. Braun Strowman, get these hands. And then Keith Lee starts beating his ass down. He's like, you're a monster, and that's how you got to win. If you're a monster, I'm a dragon. I'm breathing fire on you. I'm taking you out. So, we're going to see this feud continue. Whether you like it or not, we're going to see it continue. And I guess that's the only way they thought to have this thing continue. So who knows? Now they're probably going to do a no DQ because he got hit in the balls, and that's technically a DQ. So get ready. Their next match will be no DQ. And if you couldn't tell by my reaction and how I felt, I did not care about this at all. I do not want to see these two guys feud. You can do so much better with Keith Lee. So then now we get the sell. It's being lowered. Main event time, guys. We're finally here. It feels like an eternity, and this show felt like it. The review is way better. Watching it for 3 hours, don't do it. Just wait till Tuesday morning. We got the hookup right here for you. So they enter the cell. Randy Orton enters. And, for his final address to the WWE champion, he locks the cell behind him and, he's looking, he wants to make sure, it's all good. He's like, okay. Then he grabs a chair, he sits down and he's just taking it all in, breathe it in, man. He's just taking it all in. And he knows how he had 7 matches inside the cell. And unlike others, he's never left a piece of himself inside because JR always had that line like, oh, when you step in, you never leave the way you entered. You always leave a part of yourself in the cell. He said that's never been him because he simply understood himself better each time when he walked out the door because he knows what he's capable of. He said, as I sit here, I remember standing toe-to-toe with the world's strongest man here. I remember surviving the Celtic Warrior here, mutilating Jeff Hardy over there, beating Daniel Bryan here, facing John Cena twice, becoming the WWE champion twice, and most important thing I remember is standing in this cell, looking the dead man in the eye and earning his respect. Then Orton notes how every person that's been in the cell with him will be in the Hall of Fame, and when Orton thinks of the Hall of Fame, he thinks of legend. The word legend gets thrown around a lot these days, rather loosely. There's legends, and then there's legendary moments. And then he said, when Drew McIntyre beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, that was a legendary moment. And then, McIntyre's music hits. He interrupts. McIntyre, he tries to get in the cell, and then Orton's taunting him. He's like, come on, break the lock. Get in. Let's see what you're going to do to me, brother. Let's get this on. And then McIntyre, he's like, okay, you want me to come in there? So he goes up to the barricade, reaches down. Pulls up the bolt cutters, and then Randy Orton's like, oh shit. And then he starts trying to hold the door, and he's like, well, that's clearly not going to work. So then he grabs the chair. Drew cuts it open with the bolt cutters. He cuts the chain, enters, and they start yelling at each other as the show goes off the air. We don't see any physical altercation between the two of them. That I liked. I almost would have liked it if there wasn't the bolt cutters and they just stood out there, and then maybe Drew kicked the door and it, dented the door. You just have a gimmick door, and then Drew kicks it and it dents it to be like, oh shit, just something like that. But because it's like, oh, you enter the cell and then that's when really the cameras cut away and we don't see what happens. But I guess that's the build intrigue to watch the pay-per-view. But guys, that was Monday Night Raw. So, tell me something that I said in this whole review that made you go, wow, like this was, I can't believe I missed this show. I got to go back and watch it. Was it AJ Styles beating Matt Riddle again? Yeah, he has a new bodyguard, but okay. Was it Lana losing to Asuka in 4 minutes? Was it that, 8 women, tag match? No. There was nothing on this show that screamed, you know, Monday Night Raw is a good show. There was nothing on this show. It was a season premiere. It fell completely flat to me. I don't even know what to say. I guess the only good thing is by the time Royal Rumble season comes around, things start to pick up, start to get good. We're the middle of October right now, so Royal Rumble will be here sooner than later. So I guess that's what we have to look forward to. I don't know. Hell in a Cell this Sunday. I'm not looking forward to it as much as I wish I was, and I think SmackDown is going to make me even less so. But guys, that was the review. Thank you so much for watching. And like I said in the beginning of the review, make sure if you haven't watched all the shows from last week, we saw the season premiere of SmackDown was last week, and then of course we had released just yesterday, so hot off the rope break presses, the interview with the Wild Thing Steve Ray, star of Dark Side of the Ring episode about UWF. He was the homegrown talent there. We have all, the rope break exclusives that you didn't hear on Dark Side of the Ring. Check that out for part 1, part 2 coming later. And guys, we will see you next time for AEW Dynamite. And we only have one thing left to say, and that is,